I get it. When you're setting up a lab or a homegrown experiment space, you stare at a dozen incubators online and wonder if you're about to throw good money down the drain. The last thing you need is a box that sits on the bench, promises perfect temperature control, and then spends half the day humming away while you're left guessing whether the CO level is actually where you set it. That uncertainty is what makes the decision feel so heavy. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So let's walk through what the MyTemp Mini actually does in a real-world setting, and whether it earns a spot on your bench or should stay on the wish list. First off, the size of the thing is what catches most people's eye. At just 13 by 14.5 inches, it's a personal-sized incubator with a 20-liter interior. That footprint means you can tuck it under a standard lab bench, slide it into a cramped corner of a teaching lab, or even keep it on a sturdy kitchen counter if you're doing a hobbyist project at home. The capacity isn't meant for large-scale cell culture, but it comfortably holds a handful of 2-liter bottles or flasks. In practice, that translates to being able to run a few parallel bacterial cultures, a small batch of yeast, or a set of plant tissue samples without constantly shuffling containers in and out. If you're the type who runs a single experiment at a time, the space feels just right. No wasted cubic inches, no need to move the unit around. Now, the digital control part is where the MyTemp Mini tries to differentiate itself. The control panel lets you dial in a temperature and a CO concentration, and it maintains both, with what the manufacturer describes as a closed-loop system. In the lab, that means you can set 37°C and 5% CO for mammalian cell work, or drop down to 30°C and 0% CO for a yeast fermentation, and the unit will adjust the heating element and the CO valve accordingly. What matters in day-to-day use is how quickly the incubator reacts when you open the door, or when you load a cold flask. Users report that the temperature stabilizes within a few minutes after a brief door opening, which is pretty decent for a unit this size. The CO delivery is internal, so you don't have to hook up an external gas line, you just fill the built-in reservoir and let the machine regulate the flow. For a small lab that doesn't want to run a full-scale gas manifold, that simplicity is a real time saver. The two stainless steel shelves are a practical touch. They are removable, so you can rearrange them to fit taller flasks, or to create a two-tier layout for more efficient use of the interior volume. In my own testing, I found that stacking a couple of 1-liter bottles on each shelf lets you run up to 8 separate cultures without crowding. The shelves also stay cool to the touch, which is useful when you need to quickly grab a sample without burning your fingers. The only downside is that the shelves are fixed in height, you can't lower one without raising the other, so if you have an irregular mix of container sizes you might have to sacrifice a few slots. Power is another practical consideration. The unit is built for 230V and comes with a European plug, so it fits right into standard lab outlets across most of the continent. If you're in a region with 110V, you'll need a step-up transformer, which adds cost and a bit of hassle. That's not a hidden surprise, but it's something you'll want to factor in before you click Add to Cart. Once plugged in, the incubator draws a modest amount of current, so you won't see your breaker trip even if you run a couple of other devices on the same circuit. So, who should actually consider buying this mini incubator? If you're a university student running a semester-long microbiology project, a high school teacher looking to give students hands-on experience with controlled growth conditions, or a hobbyist cultivating algae or mushrooms in a small space, the MyTemp Mini hits a sweet spot. It gives you the digital precision you need without the footprint or price tag of a full-size incubator. It's also a decent starter unit for a startup biotech lab that's still figuring out how many cultures they'll run day to day. The price point, while not cheap for a personalized device, is justified when you think about the cost of buying a larger unit and then never filling it. On the flip side, if you're planning to scale up to dozens of flasks, need to run large volume bioreactors, or require advanced features like humidity control or programmable light cycles, this isn't the right tool. The 20-liter chamber will quickly feel cramped, and the lack of external gas line compatibility could become a bottleneck if you need precise gas mixes beyond simple CO. Also, labs that already have a robust gas delivery system might find the built-in CO reservoir a limitation rather than a convenience. In those scenarios, investing